And then we have a series of articles about the sinking of HMS Royal Oak, which was one of the first battleships to be sunk by German U-boat in the Second World War. It's reported in October the 19th and the 26th. The first article in the Behind the Headlines section is entitled Royal Oak Mystery. It says, meanwhile, the German people are being buoyed up with U-boat success stories. Great jubilation in Berlin followed the Royal Oak disaster last week. One rumour, which gained credence, was that the Germans used a new system of electrical control by which a torpedo was released below water and exploded by radio as it passed beneath the warship's hull. A new type of high explosive was also spoken of. All these speculations are being investigated, but the chief known facts are that the vessel was struck by several torpedoes. She then capsized and sank. And then in the history in the making section, it just says for Saturday, October the 14th, Admiralty released news of the sinking of HMS Royal Oak by U-boat. 414 of the 1,200 crew saved. And then there's a longer article under the High Seas section titled Before Dawn. And as so often with these papers, it's kind of a little bit novel-like the way they've written it. But it says, in wartime, sailors on active service dread the coming of dawn. The first pale shafts of light falling on the grey seas makes it possible for prying enemy submarines to pick out the shapes of warships, but it is not so easy for watchers on the ships to sight the tiny black periscopes in the half light. In the dreary darkness of early morning on October the 14th, German U-boat men cautiously eased their craft near the surface. Squinting through the periscope, they saw outlined in the shadowy hull of a British battleship at anchor in Scapa Flow. Soon, a torpedo was gliding through the waves. Several others soon followed, and HMS Royal Oak, a 29,000-ton veteran of Jutland, began her journey to the bottom of the sea. 2/3 of her company were slung in their hammocks below decks. 800 perished, some 414 were saved. Like her sister ships, Royal Sovereign, Resolution, Ramillies and Revenge, the Royal Oak was considered to be specially well protected against submarine attack. Her underwater armament included deep anti-torpedo bulges. When the Admiralty issued no statement except that the battleship was believed to be sunk as a result of U-boat activity, false rumours chased around Britain that she'd been successfully attacked by warplanes. Germany knew even less than Britain. Until the BBC spilt the news, it had not reached Berlin. Nazi Naval headquarters later announced that it had no confirmation of the sinking and must await reports from whatever German units might have been involved. This week, Defence Coordination Minister Chatfield gave the bare facts in Parliament. By a remarkable exploit of professional skill and daring, the attacking U-boat had got into Scapa Flow harbour and fired several torpedoes at the warship without detection. Built during the last war at a cost of £2.4 million, the Royal Oak was in action at the Battle of Jutland and saw active service during the Spanish War when she was under fire several times. In the air raid on Valencia in February 1937, an anti-aircraft shell bounced on her quarterdeck, wounding the captain, 2 other officers and 2 ratings. Previously, she had been withdrawn from the 1st Battle Squadron and reconditioned. And then there's some reference to something called the Bloody Bandmaster case, which was some kind of a scandal that took place back in 1928 involving this boat. A fallout, some rude comments made about a band apparently, and the captain and the commander were disciplined and dismissed from the ship. It then goes on to talk about, it says although Britain's biggest ships are now, 2 of Britain's biggest ships are now lying at the bottom of the sea, the relative loss to the Navy is less serious than it would have been in 1914, because back in 1914 the German Navy and the British Navy were similar in terms of their strength. But now Britain has got 14 ships, 11 battleships and 3 battle cruisers. and 9 new ships are under construction. Germany has only 2 battleships, both in a very, very early stage of building. And then on October the 19th, we've got an article called New Raids, which starts off talking about some new air raids that have been happening over Scapa Flow. But then it says, meanwhile, Commander Prien of the German U-boat which sank the Royal Oak was being feted in Berlin. Workers were told to leave their factories and cheer him as he was elevated to the position of Rear Admiral. His crew received the Iron Cross second class. Over the powerful German network of radio stations, the commander gave his story of the daring raid. It was quite a job to smuggle ourselves into Scapa Flow through the British defences, he admitted. I saw 2 British warships to the north of me and discharged 2 torpedoes at them. I at once turned my boat and left the harbour because I did not want my ship and crew to be captured. As I left the port, I heard 2 explosions and saw a column of water rising from the British ship lying farthest north. A moment later, the other ship exploded. She had 2 funnels, which proves that she was not the Royal Oak. The other ship was declared by Nazi propagandists to be the battleship Repulse, but this was denied by the British Admiralty. Experts declared that the whole broadcast was a fake. It differed so much from survivors' stories that it was obviously by somebody who knew nothing about it. 7 hours earlier, First Lord Winston Churchill had given the full story of the Royal Oak sinking in the House of Commons. It must be considered as a remarkable exploit of professional skill and daring, he added. I mean, the thing that's conspicuously absent from this report is any kind of sense of the human loss, you know, the kind of, 800 young men died, 800 families lost sons, husbands, fathers. And, when you think about how that would be reported in the modern press, with interviews on television with members of the family, etc. And there's just nothing, they just kind of quote the numbers of people who've died. It's extraordinary. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And there'll be lots more of these to come. Thank you.